Mirai Nikki, aka Future Diary, was created in January 2006 by Sakai Esano, and later in October 2011, the anime premiered, introducing us to the most famous Yandere of all time, and the battle royale set up by the god Deus himself began. Each player is given a Future Diary, a special diary tied to the user that can predict upcoming events in different ways, and also be every player's Achilles heel, because if the diary were to be destroyed in any way, they automatically go down with it. The key player focused in on this game is Yuki, our main protagonist, who is a recluse by nature and a player who can't seem to manage much on his own due to his tendencies always leaning more towards the scaredy cat route in every dangerous situation he's put in. Fortunately for him, he's unwillingly partnered with Yuno, the axe-wielding Yandere who won't let anything stand in her way when it comes to her. Chills every time. Together, they must be the last one standing in this game to win the powers of God and be able to mold the world in any way they desire. And live, of course. The premise of this anime is definitely interesting, and while I have a personal love for shows and games that do the battle royale / killing game aspect, this one had its fair share of problems that popped up towards the end of it. Now, one of my biggest problems with this show is with our main character, Yuki. Not wanting to participate in the game at all and wanting to be a peaceful character does lead him to get into some interesting situations, but other than throwing his trademark dart he carries around with him at the exact right angle needed, he provides not much else to the story other than the fact that he's a guy Yuno's obsessed with. Even when Yuki starts to man up after deciding he wants to win the game, this doesn't happen until over half the anime is over, which for a 26 episode series does not give us a lot of time to find him interesting like the other players competing in this game. Speaking of the other players, they vary from a variety of different tropes of characters and most of the time are only around for an episode or two, but even then these characters add more of a presence to the story than Yuki does. Well, most of them anyway. Each of the diaries are modeled after their user and reflect their personalities with how they function, which adds some interesting moments when the players are trying to figure out what the other diaries are and how to get around them. The 9th diary user, Uryu, is the most reoccurring player other than our main duo, and she becomes an interesting foil and character throughout the story. Her role in the game starts out seeming like she's just any other terrorist in the world wanting things to be destroyed in her wake, but deep down has more of a complex history of being a survivor, hence the escape route diary she has maps out ways she can avoid any danger in the game. While the show does its best to put our characters in danger, it's hard to find things suspenseful during the conflict sequences of the game due to Yuno being the absolute crazy badass that she is, which does lead into one of the best things about the show, and also one of the meh things about the show. To put this bluntly, if Yuno wasn't the way that she is, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed this anime as much. When watching the situations unfold where Yuki gets put in danger, we know Yuno's gonna yandere her way into saving him, which as I stated earlier cuts the suspense out of the equation. But by the same token, the way Yuno goes about herself is what makes these situations at the same time very entertaining to watch. Morality goes out the window when it comes to her undying love for her Yuki, as she's willing to slash through anyone and anything if she feels it benefits their relationship. That was one of the driving points for me and I think a lot of other fans to keep watching this anime. We wanted to see how far she would go with her antics and wanted to know what is her backstory to set up these events this way. This also leads into the issue I had with the big twist towards the end of the anime, which I'm going to be discussing with spoilers, so if you haven't seen it and don't want it spoiled, please skip to the timestamp on screen. The big plot twist of Yuno having played and won the game before in a previous world, and that this was in fact a second world where the killing game was reset, I was not expecting, and I thought a great reveal for the series. But my joy from this realization faded afterwards, because that's when the anime shifts from trying to be a suspenseful thriller to a magical battle of godlike beings with Yuno suddenly using techniques that look like they could be in an episode of Dragon Ball. I can see how this would make sense since the characters did have diaries that could predict the future from a god looking to pass on his power, but for a killing game that was involved with real-world tactics such as poisoning and gunfights, it just felt very out of character for the anime to be shifted this way. The anime ends with Yuno sacrificing herself for Yuki after he proved he truly did love her after all the turmoil they had gone through together, ceasing the destruction of the second world, and leaves Yuki the last standing player, winning the game and inheriting the powers of God as well. The last shot of the anime is Yuki feeling depressed over losing Yuno, but cuts to his diary reading that Yuno reunites with him and the trademark is heard one last time. Choosing to end with this begs the question on how in the world this would be possible, and we're left wondering for over a year until the OVA redials release, giving us the answers we've been looking for. In the end, I was glad they reunited because that's what kept me watching the show to begin with, and although the ending is a mess, having them survive made all the previous stuff actually matter for the viewers. Everyone wants an ending that ties up the plot in a way that makes the viewers happy they stuck it out till the end, and Future Diary delivered that, even if it did take longer than it should have to come out. Visually speaking, this anime is animated beautifully with its action sequences and with how it conveys creepy and horrifying moments. The atmosphere is chilling with shots like Yuno staring at Yuki through the mail slot, which helps convey her unhealthy obsession with Yuki, and scenes filled with blood and gore never felt too much for the situations on screen. The music score really sets up each scene, often giving us moments where the music helps pump up the action on screen or the horror music used when showing us how unstable Yuno is. The first opening is iconic with its music choice and visuals, and the shots of Yuno attacking herself is only a small example of symbolism found in this opening. The music keeps up in tempo with each chaotic and horror-looking shot that makes this opening really hard to forget. I have seen both the subbed and dubbed version of this anime, and out of the two, I think the subbed is the preferred version I would watch. Yuno's voice sub just has this eerie ring to it, especially when speaking Yuki's name, which the English dub doesn't quite capture in my opinion. Yuki's voice in the Japanese dub is more fitting for someone who's afraid of conflict in general, but when I was watching the English dub, I had a hard time believing Yuki sounded terrified a lot of the time. I feel this anime gets a lot of hate for how unstable Yuno is, which I can see being an issue for some anime fans, but at the same token, this anime wasn't made to make you feel comfortable while watching it. It's meant to be a thriller show that gives you characters committing acts of violence to one another and showing how unstable a character can react in certain situations. Also, it doesn't just paint her as a simple disturbed woman without reason, as the anime does dive into her past, which in my opinion does help explain things about her character. This anime for the most part does convey all the stuff it wants to, even with a few faults along the way, which is why I'm going to give this anime a score of 7 out of 10. It's an entertaining battle royale worth watching, and Yuno alone could sell this show for at least one viewing. Besides, guys, if you can look past all the crazy stunts Yuno pulls, you can really see how much she cares for Yuki, which is almost kind of sweet. I take it all back.